Okay, so we're at our final chapter of A Gesture Life by Chang Ray Lee. And in this chapter, we sort of have a bit of an open-ended conclusion. Hada has decided that he's going to sell his house in Bedley Run, and he makes some sort of financial decisions that will take care of or help in the lives of his daughter Sunny and her son Thomas. As well, he makes a decision to also help out the Hickey family, um, the father and the son, after the mother's death. And then we get his plans for the future. So we're going to talk about that as well as a couple of conclusions about this novel as a whole. So let's get started with chapter 17. Probably the most important detail in chapter 17 is Hada's decision to leave Bedley Run. We've learned that in previous chapters he's now sees himself almost like a plague or an illness or sickness in the lives of others, bringing bad misfortune, bad luck, and cursing their lives with this kind of stain of death. So he sees himself as this kind of bringer of bad luck, and his association with the Black Flag is part of that. So he vows to give up his whole life in Bedley Run and disappear from the lives of those who care about him. So he makes this kind of personal sacrifice to leave their lives, thinking that it's the best decision that he can make for their well-being. So it's kind of a personal sacrifice that he is making, perhaps as a way of making amends for the past wrongs that he's done to Sunny, and to try to make up for the guilt he feels for Kate's death. He vows to, never to return and not bring any more hardship or suffering into the lives of those people who surround him. So he does make some arrangements that will benefit those in his life. So he's going to buy out the Hickey's mortgage on the store, the bankrupt store, the medical supply store. So he's going to buy that property and then give money to Patrick Hickey, who is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Hickey, and he's sick, and he's going to sort of give this family some money. And then he's also made arrangements to give the lease of that building to Sunny, so she can, she's looking for work. Her store has gone bankrupt, and so he's also making arrangements for her to be financially stable in the future so she can take care of her son. And he's made these arrangements. And then he doesn't know exactly where he's going to go, but he knows he has to leave. He wants to leave those loved ones in his life before he hurts them. So he sees himself as kind of a malevolent force or some negative force in their lives. And the last sort of paragraph, two paragraphs, we can read out loud and sort of try to make sense of that. So he says, I'll have just enough to go away from here and live out modestly the rest of my unappointed days. Perhaps I'll travel to where Sunny wouldn't go, to the south and west and maybe farther still, across the oceans, to the land on former shores. But I think it won't be any kind of pilgrimage. I won't be seeking out my destiny or fate. I won't attempt to find comfort in the visage of a creator or the forgiving dead. Let me simply bear my flesh and blood and bones. I will fly a flag. Tomorrow, when this house is alive and full, I will be outside looking in. I will already on a walk someplace in this town or the next, or one 5,000 miles away. I will circle round and arrive again, come almost home. So I don't know. He's undecided on where he's going to go, but it seems as if perhaps he'll visit those places that he once promised with Kate to visit if they both survived the war. He promised to take her to Shanghai and and visit these other places together with her. So perhaps that's where he'll go. Um, or he says, I'm going to I'll be, outside looking in the distance, not involved with anybody's life from here on in. So it's almost as if he becomes kind of like a ghost himself, like Kate is for him, a ghost figure that, is always on the periphery or margins. Um, and that line, "I will fly a flag," is kind of, a strong sense of symbol of the black flag that he sees himself as representing. So it's sort of like this barrier between himself and others that he's going to sort of carry and put out there, I guess. So it's an interesting ending, a very open conclusion. We don't quite know what's going to happen with his character. Um, so we have a kind of open ending. And I'm interested in hearing your sort of interpretations of what you think the future for that character is. But I think the fact that he sort of has reflected on his past and realized his own guilt and blame for how he's intervened in the lives of particularly the women in his life, his daughter Sunny, and um, with the comfort woman Kute, affecting their lives in negative ways. He sort of wants to remove himself from doing any further damage. So it is a kind of self-sacrificing decision that he makes at the end of his life, not selfish anymore, but doing something that he feels is best for everybody around him. So perhaps that's part of his character's growth or transformation over the course of the novel, to realize how he has brought a negative influence in the lives of others through trying to sort of control the lives of others, or becoming sort of complicit or participant in a patriarchal kind of structure. Okay, so that is the ending of the novel. So I just want to bring up a couple of final thoughts in regards to this novel. Um, okay, so at the end of our discussion, I just want to sort of bring us back to our course interests, our course focus. And the first question I want to ask is this story, having read it to its completion now, is this a traditional war story, or do you think Chang Rei is doing something, different than some of the other war stories we've read this term? My opinion, I think it is a little different in this fact that, he's dealing sort of with a post-war situation. He's dealing with, somebody who has experienced being a soldier, and the bulk of the story is sort of how the memories of that time have affected him, long after the events are over. So in some ways, it's more of a kind of trauma narrative or trauma writing than it is, just a traditional story about the battlefield, or fighting as a soldier. In fact, there is no military violence depicted in the story. So it's a very sort of different war story than what we've read so far. And it deals more with, personal dilemmas, personal relationships, and kind of the legacy of war in one man's life. As far as our other kind of focus areas, gender, race, ethnicity, and psychological trauma, I think this novel does shed light on each of these areas in a sort of unique way. In regards to gender, it shows sort of one of the impacts that war has had on women, and how they have traditionally been victimized by the military system, exploited, and subjected to sort of conditions of dehumanization, degradation through kind of sex slavery. So this happened in World War II, but it's happened in other wars as well. And as if you do a little bit of research, you'll discover that rape is often used as a weapon of war in genocide, and the sexual trafficking of women is a problem in countries where there is a lot of military conquest and military occupation. So we have a lot of commentary on sort of the privilege and power of men within this time frame. So you have to sort of place it in a historical context, and place. So this is, the dominance of Japan in during World War II. So we're dealing with a specific sort of cultural moment in history, and at this time, male privilege and power was realized through the men's participation in the military and their exploitation of women. But as we saw, not all men were treated equally on that hierarchy, that military hierarchy. Certain men had more power and privilege over other men, as well as over the comfort women. So once again, we see that hierarchical structure as part of that patriarchal system, military system. So in relation to race and ethnicity, that's another sort of thread that weaves throughout the narrative. We see how there is, different forms of prejudice and racism across time. So the Japanese military, their policies of kidnapping, using Korean women, that's a sort of an example of racial persecution, viewing the Korean women as less than, as subhuman, and treating them in sort of a derogatory way based on their ethnicity and the fact that they were female. We also see how even in present day or more modern day United States, in the town of Bedley Run, there's still racism, prejudice. Sunny feels the results of that. Hada and Rennie all comment on feeling like an outsider within American culture, and even though they've been living in the city of Bedley Run for decades, still sort of being stereotyped as the Oriental elder in his community, or being sort of an outsider looking in, is also a reflection of racial or ethnic identity within a kind of bubble of American culture. And in regards to our discussion of sort of psychology or trauma, I think this narrative does shed a lot of light on how just the process of the mind works, the mental processes of somebody who's been dealing with something traumatic in their lives. That idea of the return of the repressed is very much evident in the character of Doc Hada. As for him, the past is never fully in the past. It always sort of reemerges, and he's continually haunted by his memories. So we have that being shown in many different ways, through his dreams of Kate, through his sort of flashbacks of memory, and through keeping remnants like the black flag, the tattered black flag in the back of his closet. All of these things sort of suggest that his past is never fully, he doesn't have the same closure, or closure to that moment in the past that continually haunts him even to the present. So That's all I have to say for now about